Welcome to Vibes AI Restorative Audio. Today the sun reaches its highest point it will reach all year. The light extends to its furthest edge. The natural world holds itself in full radiance, and every leaf, every cell, and every living rhythm tilts toward the source of energy that makes life possible. And on this day, the day of greatest light, Vibes AI releases something built for the part of you that keeps becoming. This is lasting light, sound therapy for neuroplasticity. The name carries the spirit of the solstice and the spirit of the science all at once. Light that lasts is what the summer offers the body, and plasticity that lasts is what the brain needs across a lifetime. And the question underneath this drop, the question underneath this entire month of awareness, is whether the brain can keep learning, keep adapting, keep remaking itself, all the way to the very end. And the answer, it turns out, is yes. Not as a wish, but as a measurement, as a finding repeated across laboratories in Cambridge, in Toronto, in Boston, in Helsinki, in the quiet rooms where researchers have been asking what sound actually does to the human brain. The findings of the past decade have started to give us something we did not have before. We now have a map of how rhythm reaches the cell. We now have evidence that a single frequency, delivered with care, can shift the biology of an aging brain. We now have the beginning of a science that has waited inside drums and chants and bowls for thousands of years. June is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. I have found that awareness is a word that wears thin from overuse. So let us be specific about what I want you to be aware of regarding sound therapy and the brain. The brain you are listening with right now is malleable. It is reorganizing as I speak. It is forming new connections, pruning old ones, reading my voice as a pattern of vibration that arrives at your ear and then travels somewhere ancient and somewhere new at the same time. That capacity to reorganize is not something you lose when you reach a certain age. The research is clear on this point. The aging brain remains malleable. The conditions for plasticity can be supported. And sound, designed precisely, may be amongst the most accessible tools we have to support them. This vibe drop sits at the intersection of 3 research stories. Each story is a piece of how sound becomes biology, and together, they are why the audio in this drop sounds the way it does. The science is the architecture, and the light is what gets built inside it. You may be listening to this because someone you love has begun to forget. A parent, a grandparent, a spouse, a friend whose words now arrive a half beat slower than they used to. The casserole in the oven that no one remembers putting there, the keys that are in the freezer, the conversation repeated 3 times in an hour, each time seemingly fresh. Or you may be listening because the forgetting is yours, the word that sat on the tip of your tongue and refused to land, the name of the actor in a movie you watched last week, the strange spatial moment in a parking lot when the rows looked identical and the car had vanished into them. This is one of the tender places in being human. The mind that has carried your life is something you trust without thinking, until the day you begin to wonder if you can. Memory is identity. Memory is continuity. Memory is the way you know that the person who woke up in your bed this morning is the same person who fell asleep there. 6.5 million people in the United States are living with Alzheimer's disease right now. Worldwide, the number passes 55 million. Behind every number is a kitchen table, a caregiver, a hand held across a hospital bed, or in my case, a daughter learning to be the parent of her own parent. The grief of cognitive decline is a grief that arrives in pieces over years, and there's no good way to grieve a person who is still standing in the room with you. So when the researchers tell us that the aging brain remains adaptive, they're not offering a cure. they're offering something subtler and in some ways more precious. They're offering the news that the brain you have, at the age you have it, is still listening, still capable of repair, and still in conversation with the world. The body holds an intelligence we have only begun to understand. It knows how to clear what does not belong. It knows how to lay down new pathways where old ones have weakened. It knows how to rest, to integrate, to absorb what the day has delivered and turn it into substance of memory overnight. What the brain needs mostly is the conditions in which to do this work. Good blood flow, low inflammation, steady rhythm, and time. Sound, it turns out, can offer every one of these. The way it does is the story of this drop. There are 3 research lines worth knowing. They come from different laboratories, use different methods, and look at different parts of the brain. Together, they are starting to answer a question that used to belong to philosophy. Can sound on its own change the biology of how we think and feel? The 40 Hertz discovery. The brain runs on rhythm. Different mental states have different signature frequencies, and the fastest of these rhythms, gamma waves, fire at around 40 cycles per second. Gamma activity shows up when the brain is doing its most demanding work, holding a thought, encoding a new memory, weaving sensory details into a single experience. 40 cycles per second is the rhythm of cognition itself. In Alzheimer's disease and in normal cognitive aging, that rhythm weakens. The signal gets sloppier. The timing across different brain regions drifts. The cells are still there, the orchestra is still seated, but the conductor has lost the beat. A team at MIT, led by Dr. Li Hui-Sei, asked a simple question. If 40 Hertz fades as memory fades, what happens if we put it back? In 2016, they tried it with light. Mice with Alzheimer's-like brain changes sat in a room with light flickering at exactly 40 Hertz for 1 hour. The results, published in Nature, surprised the field. The amyloid plaques associated with Alzheimer's started to clear. The brain's immune cells, called microglia, shifted into cleanup mode. 1 hour of 40 Hertz light had changed the biology of a neurodegenerative disease. In 2019, the same laboratory tried it with sound. They played 40 Hertz clicks to mice for an hour a day across several weeks. The effects spread further this time, reaching the hippocampus and parts of the prefrontal cortex. The animals performed better on memory tests. When they combined the sound and the light, the effect spread wider still. The technique has a name now. They call it gamma entrainment using sensory stimulation, or GENUS. Mouse studies are one thing and humans are another. So the first careful human trial came in 2022, when a team at Massachusetts General Hospital and MIT delivered combined audio-visual 40 Hertz stimulation to people with mild Alzheimer's dementia. After several weeks, the treated group showed less brain shrinkage on MRI in important regions, and their cognitive performance held steady compared to the control group. The sample was small and the effect was modest, so the researchers were careful to call it a signal worth investigating further. So now larger trials are now underway. There is a parallel line of research worth knowing about. Vibroacoustic therapy delivers low-frequency sound through a chair or a mat, so the person feels the vibration resonating as well as hearing it. A team at the University of Toronto, led by Dr. Lee Bartel, has spent more than a decade studying this approach. Their work, 40 Hertz vibroacoustic stimulation, has shown cognitive improvements in people with mild to moderate Alzheimer's, along with benefits for Parkinson's motor symptoms and fibromyalgia pain. The pattern is consistent. A specific frequency, delivered through sound or vibration, can shift the cellular conditions of an aging or struggling brain. That is the headline finding of the past decade. The second story is how sound reaches the cell. The vagus nerve is the long branching nerve that carries the parasympathetic signal from the brain down through the chest and abdomen and then back up again. When your vagus nerve is well toned, your heart slows, your breath deepens, your gut works better, and your brain has the conditions it needs to repair and remodel itself. Vagal tone is the quiet kingmaker of cognitive health. One of the cleanest ways to measure vagal tone is heart rate variability, or HRV. A healthy nervous system produces a heartbeat that is gently irregular, with constant small adjustments. Higher HRV is associated with parasympathetic dominance, emotional regulation, and brain plasticity. Lower HRV is associated with stress, inflammation, and cognitive decline. Sound, it turns out, can move HRV in the right direction quickly. In a 2014 study, a 12-minute session with Himalayan singing bowls produced significant drops in blood pressure and heart rate compared with directed meditation. A 2019 study compared 20 minutes of singing bowl meditation with 20 minutes of laying in silence. Both relaxed people, the singing bowls relaxed them more and more consistently on every HRV measure. A 2020 study extended this to a 40-minute session and found positive shifts in HRV alongside reductions in tension, fatigue, and depressed mood. That is HRV. The cellular end of this pathway runs through a molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the body's signaling molecule for vasodilation, for immune response, and cellular communication. It supports blood flow, including the cerebral blood flow your brain needs for plasticity. 2 research lines have shown that sound can directly trigger nitric oxide release. Dr. John Bullier of Biosonic Enterprises documented that tuning forks placed on bone and connective tissue produce a measurable spike in cellular nitric oxide. The vibration travels through the body's structural network, the cells respond, and a cascade of vasodilation and improved circulation follows. The simpler version of this finding is even more striking. In 2002, Weitzberg and Lundberg published a paper in the American Journal of Respiratory and Critical Care Medicine showing that humming, the simplest sound a human body makes, increased nasal nitric oxide 15-fold compared with quiet breathing. The rapid air oscillations of humming pull nitric oxide out of the sinus tissues and into the airway, where it gets carried into the body. A 2021 randomized trial by Gotti and colleagues found that a single session of bee humming breath exercise significantly improved heart rate variability and augmented parasympathetic tone in people with essential hypertension. Stack these findings together and a picture emerges. Sound can engage the vagus nerve. The vagus shifts the autonomic nervous system towards parasympathetic dominance. Parasympathetic dominance creates the conditions for brain plasticity. The right kind of sound puts the body in a state where the brain can do its repair work. The third research line is one most people have heard about, and it's also the one where the claims have run furthest ahead of the evidence. Brainwave entrainment is the observation that rhythmic sound can influence the rhythmic electrical activity of the cortex. The basic finding is solid. You play a steady auditory rhythm, and you can measure a frequency-matched response in the brain. This is called the auditory steady-state response, and it's standard neuroscience. The harder question is whether sustained entrainment produces lasting effects on cognition, mood, or sleep. Here, the science is more careful than the marketing suggests. There are 3 main techniques. Binaural beats present slightly different frequencies to each ear through headphones, and the brain perceives a beat at the difference of the frequencies. Isochronic tones pulse a single tone on and off at the targeted frequency, which means they work through speakers as well as headphones. Monaural beats mix the difference frequency into the audio itself. The most thorough recent assessment is the 2019 meta-analysis by Garcia, Argabe, and colleagues They pooled 22 studies and found that binaural beats produced statistically significant effects on memory, attention, anxiety reduction, and pain perception. The effect sizes were modest, they were varied across studies, and consistently pointed in the same direction. A 2015 review by Chaib and colleagues reached a similar conclusion, and a 2023 systematic review by Ingado and colleagues looked specifically at whether binaural beats reliably entrain brain oscillations on an EEG. Their answer is yes, the effects are real, and they are smaller and less consistent than the popular claims suggest. The study quality strongly predicts whether an effect shows up. So read that all together. The message is this, that the signal is real. Some applications hold up better than others, but anxiety reduction through theta and low alpha entrainment, 4 to 10 hertz, is well supported. Sleep onset improvements through delta entrainment, 1 to 4 hertz, looks good. Attention and working memory effects in the beta range, 15 to 30 hertz, are mixed but generally positive, and the gamma range at 40 hertz and above has the strongest cognitive case of all. Honesty here is a feature. The brain genuinely responds to sound. The research community is genuinely figuring out how. Saying so plainly is what separates clinical-grade restoration audio from the wellness aesthetics. So what does this mean for Vibes AI and our restorative audio drops? The 3 research studies converge on a single picture of what the brain needs to remain adaptive. It needs synchronized neural rhythms. It needs good cerebral blood flow. It needs a low chronic inflammation. It needs healthy vagal tone. It needs engaged microglia doing the cellular housekeeping that lets new connections form. And sound, when designed precisely, can engage every one of these conditions through complementary mechanisms. That is why lasting light is built the way it is. Gamma range entrainment supports cognitive resilience. Lower frequency foundations in somatic vibrational anchoring engage the autonomic and nitric oxide pathways. Isochronic delivery makes the tracks accessible through speakers, with binaural pairing reserved for headphone listening. The tempo is near 60 beats per minute, supporting cardiac entrainment, and deliberate silences on and off allow integration because the brain needs space to absorb what the sound has set in motion. The science keeps evolving. The library evolves with it. Alzheimer's Awareness Month asks something specific of us. It asks us to look at the disease without flinching, and at the same time, to look at the brain without despair. Both are necessary. The looking without flinching is what gets research funded, what gets caregivers supported, and what gets policy moved. The looking without despair is what keeps the person inside the disease visible, what keeps the soul recognized when the cognition wavers, what keeps the family in love with the one they are losing. Science is not the magic. Science is the permission slip to trust what the body has intuitively known forever. The body knew that a steady drumbeat could regulate a racing heart before anyone measured cardiac entrainment. The body knew that a hum in the chest could settle the breath long before anyone measured nasal nitric oxide. The body knew that the brain liked rhythm. The instruments have caught up. If you are a caregiver, the drop can be played in the room for the one you care for. The frequencies do not require comprehension. The vibration meets the body where the body is. There's no test to pass. There's only the field doing what the fields do, holding the one who is held. If you're listening for yourself, the same is true. The brain you have, the brain you're using right now to take in these words, is malleable. It is forming new connections as I speak. It's doing this whether you believe it or not. The belief is helpful. The biology happens either way. On the longest day of the year, the natural world offers a teaching. The light has reached its furthest extension. Every cell and every growing thing has tilted towards source, has absorbed what summer has come to give, has stored away the photons that will carry it through the darker months ahead. Your brain is doing the same. Every conversation, every song, every walk in the morning air, it's being absorbed by tissue that knows how to use it. The pathways are forming, the microglia are clearing, the vagus is signaling, the blood is moving. The 40 hertz rhythm is firing somewhere underneath this very thought, holding the architecture of your awareness together. You are not at the end of your becoming, you are in the middle of it. The way the solstice is in the middle of the light. The middle of a long arc of a brain learning, remembering, releasing, reorganizing across the decades of a single life. Let the sound do its work. Lie down or sit up, put it through a speaker or through headphones, drift or pay attention. The tracks we make have been built to meet whichever mode you bring. And know that what the science is showing us in laboratory after laboratory, in trial after trial, is something the ancestral lineages have been saying all along. The body is intelligent. The brain is adaptive. The rhythm is medicine. And the light, when it comes through sound, lasts. Become a Vibes AI Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts. Get ad-free, early access to our 30 and 60-minute sessions designed to boost your cognitive health. Try it out today with our 3-day free trial. Not on Apple Podcasts? No worries. Hit the link in our show notes and get in on the vibes.